Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy Magaro. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. In this episode, we're exploring the inner world of AFI Film School with student Morgen Whiteman. She's a film and television director who has been featured at numerous film festivals and will be graduating soon from the AFI Conservatory's Directing MFA program. Morgen has a passion for the thriller and science fiction genres. Welcome, Morgen. So happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So AFI, as we know, is, or maybe people don't know, is really hard to get into and is very competitive. So what made you decide to get your MFA in directing and picking AFI to do it?
Yeah, I had done a lot of short films back home in Maryland, where I'm from. And the concept of directing just always seemed very ambiguous. And I just wanted to actually learn what directing is, how to be a good director, and just have the confidence to know that I have the skill set to be able to, direct a crew, direct actors, and tell a visual story. I chose AFI because they are one of the few schools that has just a strict concentration in directing. A lot of the other programs are just film MFA. I knew that I wanted to spend the next 2.5 years studying directing and directing only. So that's why I chose to go there.
And this program has different departments too, right? You have screenwriters.
Yeah.
What are the other departments along with you in the program?
So they're
different programs. So it's a screenwriting program.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there's screenwriting, producing, editing, cinematography, production design. Yeah. And then directing.
And so you have a whole team. Well, and It's so cool that all of them can work together, on your film. So you're directing, you have a screenwriter, but are a lot of the directors writers too?
Yes.
And that must be challenging for the screenwriters.
It can be. Luckily, their program is also very rigorous, so they have a portfolio that they have to build. But then in our first year, we spent a lot of time collaborating with the screenwriters because they write either 2 or 3 of the short films that we do in our first year of the program.
Mm-hmm. So are the teams picked, or do you just kind of all network together and then decide on whose team you want to be with or who's going to be on your team? And then, how many films are you doing in the year?
Yeah. So we do 3 films in our first year, and then we have our thesis film our second year. For our first year, we had a pitch fest for every film that we did. So students pitched their ideas, and then we teamed around based on the ideas. So each discipline had a focus for each film. So the first film that we did, the screenwriters took the lead and had to pitch their ideas, and we joined around their projects. And then for the second one, the producers took the lead and it was their ideas. They pitched, and then we teamed around them. And then for the third one, the directors pitched, and then the teams formed around the directors.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. I mean, to be in all facets of it, one coming onto somebody else's project in a way, and then somebody coming into your project. Mm-hmm. So it kind of gives you different ways to work with people. And then probably who's the lead, right? Yeah. So with the writer, I guess, how does it work? So if a writer's pitching, do they have any say in the final product? Or once they hand it over to the director, then it's your lead? And same with the producers.
They have a say, definitely. Usually, at least what happened with my year for the screenwriters, they teamed up with a producer first, and they kind of talked and got a sense of what type of director they wanted to work with. And then they would interview directors and then choose based on that. So they got a say in who more or less was going to be able to tell the story. And they also got a lot of input throughout the process. So the school makes it very collaborative.
Is there any time limits for the films? So is it under 5 minutes, under 10, go hog wild? How does it work?
Yeah, it's under 10, under 10 minutes, but I think it actually might be under 12 minutes or something because, yeah.
So, how did you get into the program? What did you have to provide to be chosen?
Yeah, so I had to provide a narrative statement to just kind of describe who I am, why I believe that I'm a good fit for the program. And then I had to give them some work samples of my previous short films that I had directed. And then I had to create an original short film based on a prompt. It's more like a word the word they give you that you have to make a film about. So for my year, it was a secret. So we had to make a film about a secret. So I that around maybe September when they released the applications for the year that I was applying, got my friends in Maryland together, my film friends together to shoot it. I gave them a heads up saying that I'm applying. So get ready when I know what it is, we're going to do it. So the next month we shot it and I edited it and submitted it December, or the deadline is December 1st every year. Oh, so like today.
Wow. Was it exciting when you got in? I mean, were you surprised or like you kind of thought, I'm going to get in?
Um, it's weird. I always, I don't know, deep down knew in my heart that I was going to go to AFI, but I would like on the outside kind of trick myself into being like, oh, I'm never going to get in. It's never going to happen. But like, I knew it was going to happen. So when I got in, I was super excited. But that was also the day that the world shut down for COVID. Like that was literally the day. So that made it a little bit weird, but yeah, it was exciting.
So when did you start then, the program?
Yeah, I started in August of 2020.
And was it online at that time?
It was for the most part. Our classes were online, but then we had production like in person. So we had to do a lot of like quarantining and testing and just making sure that we really stayed at home just so that we could have the ability to be on set. So we couldn't really like go to parties and hang out and do things that maybe other people were doing around LA, just so that we could have the opportunity to shoot.
So you were in Maryland and then you flew out to LA once you got in. Is that correct? Or were you living in LA?
Kind of. I was actually, I was living in LA at the time. I had moved there in February of that year.
So you were just ready to go. I mean, you find out the next month, but you're like, I don't care. I'm here. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your final project, what you needed to do to now complete? And you have completed your project at this point, right? Your final film?
So the film is done. It's just getting all the like deliverables to AFI. So all the tech specs, promo materials, basically all the things that you need for festivals, but putting it together in like a more formalized package. So it's a really great experience to kind of learn how to, I guess, do things the right way.
Okay. So in this directing program, you're probably learning all the things you need to do as a director. So could you just walk us through some of the tips that you've learned?
Yeah. Our first year, we spent a lot of time learning about like the craft of directing, how to tell a visual story, working with actors, working with the crew, just being able to manipulate certain elements of a story to tell the story we want to tell, and a lot of just like script breakdown and just kind of breaking them down to their smaller moments and actions and just doing all those things. And then for our second year, we spent more time on like the career stuff. So we learned more about like developing our 5-year plan, what to include, what different areas our 5-year plan should include. So having like a project that we're directing, planning that to happen within the next couple of years, making sure to be consistent with networking, and always learning. So those were like 3, but there were a few more, but those are like the main 3 that I can remember right now. So we had to make like a big spreadsheet that had all of these things planned out for the next 5 years. So we did that. And then we also had to do cold calls with people in the industry. We had to do 3 a week and report on those calls in our class every week. And that was very nerve-wracking for some of us, but it was helpful to just, have, I guess, rip the Band-Aid off and just be able to call people and not care if they say no or get rejected or something like that. So it was helpful.
So out of those calls, because I think that's very interesting, and to get over the hump of, I think sometimes we're a little fearful to make those calls, like, oh, well, who am I calling? So what were some of the tips that they gave you in when you're making a call, what are you supposed to be talking about?
Yeah. We learned to definitely research the person that we are calling. So trying to find like connections between like you and who they are, whether it's like, oh, you're from the same state, or you went to the same school, or you like the same ice cream, or just like something very small that you can build a connection with them with. And then from there, just figuring out what you want from them long term. So not just like calling and just being like, hey, hi, but just kind of knowing what you want, whether that's like for them to like read your script or to have a meeting and they give you advice on how they moved in the industry. Just things like that. And being patient and persistent, and also following up. Our instructor was very adamant about making sure that we are consistent about following up with the people that we connect with.
So then if you had to make 3 calls a week, were they the same people every week to keep consistent, or how many people per week did you like change it up? And then when should you follow back with those people?
Yeah, we had to call 3 new people every week. And so like when you recall somebody, that doesn't count for your like 3. It just counts as like a follow-up. So you kind of have to gauge when to follow up based on like the conversation. Usually it'll be maybe like in a couple weeks or a month, or sometimes in the conversation they'll tell you when is a good time to follow up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just kind of keeping that all mapped out and consistent. So we also kind of had a spreadsheet for that to make sure that we remembered everyone that we were talking to, what we were talking to them about, and when we need to follow up.
So what was the most interesting call you made or had an experience of?
Yeah, I called this director, I guess director, writer, producer, and the like receptionist for his company was just like very like excited and open to having it happen. It was weird because she, like, it doesn't happen to them all the time, but she's just like, oh yeah, sure, fine. So then we set up a meeting with the director, and I was able to talk with him for about maybe like 45 minutes or so. And it was super helpful. It was nice to just be able to talk with someone in the industry, that they were able to just like give time and be interested and all that type of stuff. So I just feel like it's really important for everybody to just like pay it forward in that type of way, because those interactions do mean a lot.
Yeah. And it's also good to always think about what you can do for somebody else, because when you're calling people, they don't know you. But, and I've heard a lot of people that have done that, where they think of a way that they can help the other person. They actually end up getting jobs with them. So it's kind of a cool thing that, you know, there are opportunities. It's just your approach to those opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So
everyone's so used to emailing. So it's different when it's a phone call.
Right. Yeah. You like to hide behind the internet than to actually talk to the person, because that's scarier. That's way scarier. So what are some of the perks that you felt or feel going to AFI? What do you get out of going to a film school, and in particular AFI?
Yeah. Just having the network of alums, they're just spread all throughout the industry. So it's nice to just be able to have those connections. Also, just like the name AFI is very helpful. I feel like me just going out as a director and trying to get jobs, even though my work is the same, whether or not like there's an AFI stamp on it or not, AFI just kind of gives me more credibility because it's like, oh, if they selected her, then I should select her too. So, I mean, that alone I feel like is worth paying for.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and also the networking is really great if you use it. So, were there any gatherings that they created for you to all meet together and work besides the filming?
As far as like the alums or the like current students?
Well, the current students and the alum. Did they have like a networking event where everybody could come back and then you're meeting people past graduates?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of tough because we were like in the COVID years, but they did a really cool event where I don't even know what kind of platform it was, but it was like a social, like a networking platform where you could literally like go to a table and like talk to these people, and like people would leave and go to another table. Like it literally felt like you were in a room with tables and interacting with people. So I was able to meet a lot of alums through that and who I still talk to. So that was great. And then the school has mixers for the current students to meet every, I think, semester. And then the entire like class for my class 2022, we had 2 classes together a week. So we saw each other twice a week. So there was plenty of seeing of each other.
So let me ask you this. What's your 5-year plan?
Yeah. So my 5-year plan is to direct 2 features, be breaking into television work, mainly in the genre space, and then developing my own production company. And yeah, I mean, those are the main goals, is just like putting out content and continuing to direct. So that's the plan.
Are you working on any projects right now?
Yes, I am in pre-production for a limited web series. It's called Apophenia. It's about a Black woman who has this psychic ability to catch serial killers, but for some reason she seems to accidentally brutally murder these alleged serial killers each time. Who knows why? And we recently got fiscal sponsorship from Film Independent. So we are going to start our crowdfunding actually next month. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited about it because it's not something that you see very often. And yeah.
So the limited web series, where are you going to put it? Do you already know the channel or?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different options. I wanted to try like several different distribution approaches. So I was thinking of putting the first episode like on a standalone website so that people could watch it for free. Mm-hmm. And then the subsequent episodes, you would pay like $2, $3, $4, $5, so that revenue is coming directly into the project and not through like a streaming service. And also using TikTok to like put things out there. I'm also considering shooting it vertically as well as in film aspect ratio to help with that.
Horizontal. Yeah.
Yeah. Horizontal.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wait a minute. So you're going to do like both at the same time?
Yeah.
Like shoot vertical, like have a phone
mm-hmm.
or a camera.
Yeah.
I guess you could just, and then do it both like this,
yeah,
or off, or what are your thoughts? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So. My thought is just to, mount it on top of the camera. From my storyboarding that I've mm-hmm. done, I can use the same framing as it is horizontally and just like have something in the same space vertically, and it'll catch the framing that I think would work for the story. So it wouldn't require like a whole additional mm-hmm. setup or anything like that. It just needs to be close to the lens of the A-cam.
So with vertical, are you thinking that you're just going to use the vertical for just taking snippets for TikTok, like 1 second quick, or is that actually going to go in the web series? Or have a web series that is vertical?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your thoughts?
I'm thinking of definitely having snippets on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I would like for some elements of the vertical version of the series to have like a different experience to it. So there may be some shots or some things that are focused on in the vertical that aren't really seen in the horizontal version, so that people will want to watch both of them, and then together get like the whole like story. So that's the goal.
And how many how many episodes is there?
Yeah, it's 5 episodes, and they're about 5 to 6 minutes long, so super short.
And then did you write this, or
Yes.
did you hire a writer?
I wrote it.
You wrote it. So tell me, how did you come up with the idea?
How did I come up with the idea? I mean, I watch a lot of true crime, like a lot of true crime stuff. So that definitely led to part of the idea, especially since like seeing a lot of women and minorities are the ones that are the victims most often, or like 98% of the time. So I just thought that's not a really good thing for audiences to kind of be binging. It's just like the victimization of minorities and women, because then that just kind of becomes expected and standard. So that's why I wanted to kind of subvert that trope, just so that the world doesn't get too comfortable with that norm, because it's not safe or healthy.
Yeah, I was kind of curious if there are a lot more women that kill and just get away with it.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to suspect them. Yeah. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of, well, a little Dexter, but I know Dexter was a serial killer. But I think that in a lot of them, like even Hannibal, the TV show that's not on anymore, but just that fine line between these people that go into being homicide detectives and, being able to figure out crimes. There's that fine line between you have to be in the mind of the killer and you're just doing good. But where is that line between killing and not killing?
Yeah.
So I love that you're kind of on a tightrope of that.
Yeah. And the whole idea too is to kind of have this fine line between like a superhero and a serial killer. Like they're kind of the same. It's just a matter of how people are reacting to it.
Yeah, that's true.
So in the beginning, she's viewed as more of like a superhero for like saving the world from these people. But then in the end, it's just like, oh, wait, that's not really what's happening. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, so right now you're in the fundraising. Where can people support your film?
Yeah, so you can find it on Seed and Spark. It would be tinyurl.com/fund Apophenia. Well, I have to spell out Apophenia. So Apophe.
I'll put it in the description.
Perfect. Even better. So yeah, that's where you can find it.
Oh, that's great. So let me ask you this. I saw in your bio that you were best described as allegories set in height and realities. Can you tell us what I know somebody had come up with that, but what did that mean to you when they said that?
Yeah, it just made me realize that that's my style, because I'd like to make social commentary about America, society, the world, figuring out ways to either address problems or like speculate how things will evolve over time. And then in terms of like the heightened reality, making it feel slightly off. So the characters are like maybe 10% aware that this isn't like the real world, which kind of like leans into like the dark comedy of it, and just like the absurdism of it as well. So that's the idea behind it.
Okay, so you said that you would like to direct films and television. There is a definite difference between them. If you could direct one of the TV shows out there today, which show would you say, I would love to direct that show?
Yeah. I mean, I love a lot of limited series. So like Station 11 was my favorite thing of the year. I would love to direct that. But also, I mean, along the lines of like serial killers, I love Criminal Minds. So I would love to direct that. And I know that they have like 1 million episodes. So they're going strong.
Yeah, there's some good shows. How about Murders in the Building? I mean, that's kind of a funnier one, but that's in New York.
Haven't seen that one
Oh
yet.
my God, you got to see it. It's on Hulu.
I need to watch it. I
Oh,
haven't
it's
seen
so
it.
funny.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Well, so you would like to do more dramas, thriller dramas,
Yeah, dramas or dark comedy.
dark comedies. Like,
Yeah.
what's an example of a dark comedy that you
Yeah.
like?
Let me try to think of one. People haven't really seen it, but it's the only one that comes to mind. It's a movie. It's a movie called Tragedy Girls. Similar to what I'm working on with my web series, about these two girls who are into like true crime for like likes in social media, and then they eventually start getting into doing it themselves to get even more likes.
Wow.
So having that level of like gruesomeness, but then keeping it like funny. That's not the route that I'm gonna take for my project, but it was very interesting to see how they did that for that one.
Yeah. Now, do you have any other projects that you're thinking of that you'd like to do, like a feature film?
Yeah, so I have a script. It's called African American. It's about this Black woman who goes to Ghana for a work trip, and then she ends up in this alternate reality where it's as if her ancestors were never enslaved in America. So she's like fully African. So it's kind of like a Freaky Friday thing where this African American has to pretend she's African, and she also like learns about her like history and her past and all that stuff that she didn't learn prior. So I actually went to Ghana last year and shot like a short film proof of concept version of it. And I'm hoping to make the feature in the next couple of years.
Now, have you written it or you just have the outline for it?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
written.
wow. That's so exciting. Do you have a lot of scripts that are written
Yeah.
that you'd like to do?
I have like 5 or 6 feature scripts, a million like short scripts, a few pilots. So I guess, yeah.
So you spend a lot of your time working. That's really great. I mean, just like pumping out ideas and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, usually a lot of people have the idea, they don't have the product. So that's really great that that you're really ready to go. What? You need a project? Here it is. Do you have your pitches for all of them too?
Yeah.
You ready for the elevator?
Yeah. Ready for all of it. Budgets and all that stuff, schedules, they're ready to go. So
now, do you produce your own films, or would you be probably for the higher end, you'd want somebody to produce it because that's a lot on one person?
Yeah. I never want to produce my own films. I will if like out of necessity, but no, I would love to always have a producer on board for everything that I do.
Yeah, because it gets in the way of the vision, if you're having to take care of paperwork.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So is there any tips that you would want to share to filmmakers on directing and all the things that you've learned that maybe would want to impart on somebody else?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, it's like a Nike slogan, but like just do it. Because for a while, even for my web series, I was like, oh, it's going to happen eventually. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh no, it's happening in April. So I just kept telling people it's happening in April, and now it's happening in April. So just kind of tricking your mind into setting a date, making something happen, and then eventually it's gonna happen because you set a date for it. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, especially as a director and a filmmaker. The goal is to always be putting out content. You're not really a filmmaker without the work to show for it. So just doing it as much as possible, which is tough because things are not cheap. But at least trying to set something like in the future and like building an audience and getting people excited about it so that they will want to help you to make it happen.
Yeah. And maybe just in closing, any tips for, because a lot of times when we have our films, we have to pay for it ourselves. Any tips on, as you were doing your working on pre-production of the limited web series, any tips on getting some funding like that you would share that you've learned over the years?
It's hard, but the big thing as far as funding, is trying to find ways to like get things that aren't exactly like dollars. So whether it's like getting crew who will work with you for free, then that just means that you'll be working on a few other sets for free. So just like trading that off, and you can deduct those costs. Seeing if any restaurants are willing to like cater for a day for free and like taking that off of the budget. I've found since I recently got the fiscal sponsorship for the project, that just opens up a lot more opportunities for funding because you can now apply to nonprofit grants, and there's like 1 million of those. So I think that's a big thing too. And also it allows people who want to donate more to the project to be able to, because it's a tax deductible donation versus like them giving you 10K for the project and then it's just like lost. But at least it's like 10K and they can write it off on their taxes. So yeah.
I like that. Just one more question, because I was thinking about this, is the pitch deck. Can you give some advice about doing it? Because that can be a little daunting to somebody for the first time. Like, how do I put it together and, you know, what goes in it? Like any tips on how you come up with your own pitch deck?
Yeah. I use Canva. I recommend it to everybody. I love it a lot. I'm on it to at least 5 hours a day, just making things. And they have a lot of templates for pitch decks, like so many templates. So it makes it a lot easier to just kind of go through and see how you want it structured and then just copying the template and putting everything you want in it. What I find helpful when I'm first starting is just putting like a title on each page, like synopsis, budget, characters, things like that, so that I'm not just like looking at a whole bunch of stuff and not knowing what to do. So it's like, okay, I got this page finished, and this page finished, so that I have some sort of track to follow and just take one page at a time. And then what I also do, which I think is super helpful, I use shotdeck.com. They have like millions of stills from films. So I'll just like go through and type in just random stuff that I might want, like car, train, and just pick the things that feel like the aesthetic of what I'm doing, make a folder and just like put all those things in that folder for the project, end up with like 300 pictures. And then all those pictures can just go into the pitch deck versus me having to like search and find like stuff on Google, which takes forever and is very frustrating.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's some good tips there. And I'm glad that Canva, I was almost going to say Canva, I wonder if they have templates, and thank you for answering that, because then it makes it a lot easier, because sometimes it's daunting. And also you could Google pitch decks and see what other people are doing. But it really gives the flavor, and all directors are supposed to do that for their films. Now, when do you do that? I mean, do you do that before you even start shooting?
It depends. For feature films, I'll do them after I finish the script. For short films, I will sometimes do it before I even write the script. Same thing with pilots, because I feel like it's easier to make a pitch deck, or more so like a TV Bible, for shows, just because that makes you think of like all of the episodes and all of the seasons versus just writing a single pilot. And I think I think that's just a more efficient way to go about like writing TV scripts. So it just depends on the type of work it is.
And just what are your thoughts about, I know a sizzle reel, or, the reel to get people excited about your film. Do you have any thoughts about between, sometimes people will grab parts of movies that they like to represent their film. Do you feel like that's the way to go, or just bucket up, take a scene and, shoot something that is your film?
Yeah, I actually did one of those for the web series. That was my first time doing one. And I feel like it was almost a better approach, just because you don't have to spend any money doing a production when you're trying to raise money to do a production. So it just eliminates having to plan for 2 productions at once. And then it's also nice because then people can kind of see exactly what you're going for, because they're familiar with the films that are in it, versus just kind of like going off of what you can do with what equipment and crew you had at a given point in time. So I feel like it almost helps people give more, because it's like, oh, this is what it could be if, it had the funding that it needed to happen.
That's great. And you just talked about funding. I wanted to ask you that about school is they allow you to use their equipment. So that's kind of a perk to going to school too, is you have access to the Avid, to high-end equipment, right? And they give you the money for your film.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And AFI is one of the, not all schools do that. Some schools you do have to raise the money for your projects when you're in grad school. But for AFI, the first year, they give you a allotted amount that you get to work with.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was great.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram @TammyMcGarrow. Until we meet again, what's your story?